Like the song goes, Bobby Bowden did it his way, scaling college football's summit at Florida State. And from the day he arrived in Tallahassee, Bobby Bowden demanded greatness, and he led FSU on a journey for the ages.
It's going to be a new experience for us, being number one. Now, Oklahoma's used to it. Nebraska is used to it. Alabama's used to it. We want to get used to it.
Bobby's one-of-a-kind charm engendered fans the world over, and the aw-shucks smile belied his competitive fire.
Are we going to let them beat us? Let's get out there and get on.
In the next hour, we pay tribute to the Bobby Bowden era and uncover the personal legacy of a tremendous coach and a truly great man. Those who know him best share their memories, as does the coach himself. This is Bobby, Reflections of a Legend.
Time to go home, baby.
90 days. Has it been 90 since I said I ain't gonna come back? Huh? Whatever. It hadn't been hard. I mean, you know, I was gonna either retire. I don't like to say retire. I was gonna retire next year.
The finality of the news brought sadness. Timing was controversial to some. But Coach Bowden always said when it was time, he did not want any fanfare. Universally, however, everyone knew they were witnessing a living legend finally stepping down.
I was sad. I was sad that a legend and a guy who's meant so much to this program and to the state of Florida and to college football is stepping down. But at the same time, I want to celebrate, what he's done. And I'm just so proud to say that I had the chance to play with him. And he was an incredible coach and did some incredible things and helped me out in some great ways. So I'm glad he had an incredible career in college football.
I thought it would be next year. I really did. I thought it would be next year, and I was kind of shocked that it came down to this year, and you didn't go through the normal processes of a coach of his stature transitioning out. I would expect to have parade and have Coach Bowden Day and all the whoop-de-doo that's involved in that, and and have the video camera rolling on every sideline, that type of deal, and we didn't get a chance to do that, and so it's kind of odd. It's kind of a missing link in the whole process.
I knew that it wasn't far off, but when the news broke, it was definitely a surprise to me.
And who can argue with the guy's career as a college football coach? So that makes you feel really good that finally, he's come to the end of the road, but at the same time, he has a lifetime to celebrate a lot of his achievements.
Every ship, like he said, every ship comes in one day, but you just hate to see a good battleship come in from the battle.
Bowden, when he took over at Florida State, it was nothing. They were thinking about shutting down the program. They were terrible. He not only put Florida State on the map, he drew the map. That's what I always say.
But Coach Bowden became bigger. The coach, and so much more. Bobby became FSU's ambassador. It was just understood. Bobby Bowden was Florida State.
I think it has changed through the years. I really do. I think now he is more of an icon and a legend than earlier on. Earlier on, he was just a great coach. Now he's up at the status of legend. A lot of players look at him in awe, more than just as a coach. Back in the day, they looked at him as a coach, and now he's that icon. He really is.
4 years in, an undefeated regular season. 5 years in, back-to-back New Year's Day bowl games. It was thought Coach Bowden would go after the Alabama job, but it didn't come, and Florida State was the beneficiary.
It's going to be a new experience for us, being number one. Now, Oklahoma's used to it. Nebraska is used to it. Alabama's used to it. We want to get used to it.
Health and wins were always going to be the determining factors as to when Coach Bowden would retire. Just one problem, his health remained great, and he is certainly not afraid of dying. He's read the book. He knows how it ends. And though not as many as he would have wanted, the wins, well, they were still there too.
What kept Bobby going to age 80? One, I think he genuinely loved being around people in football and around young people. You know, when you come to the campus of Florida State University, and you're my age, I mean, my goodness gracious, you got 20, 21-year-old guys, gals all over campus. You just feel younger. And I think that that's probably what kept Bobby going. He often said, as long as I'm healthy and I'm winning, I want to continue to coach football. He's healthy, he's winning, and coaching football has probably come to an end.
Bo Schembechler at Michigan, one of the most successful coaches ever. He retired a little bit early. I was at a coach. Well, I spoke at the clinics up to him. I knew him, and then he and I, we were at a coach's clinic in Washington D.C. And he made the statement in front of all the coaches. He had retired, and he made the statement in front of all these coaches. He said, "You know, I wish I hadn't retired so early. I wish I'd have kept coaching." He said, "But if I had, I'd probably be dead now," because he had a heart ailment and he had to get out. And sure enough, he died pretty soon after that. You know what? But that he loved it so much, but because of his health, he got out. You know, my daddy retired at 64 and died the next year. You know what? And so I've always known about that, and I've known about Bear, and I've known about Bo, but I've never worried about myself. You know, first place, I ain't scared to go. You know, whenever the call comes, I ain't scared. You know, I'm gonna live eternally somewhere else. You know, but I've never worried about that, but I am aware of it. Team that won't be beat, can't be beat. In other words, what you're trying to say is your paws will never give up, never quit. They'll keep fighting. They're going to win. They'll find a way to win, you know.
The first day I walked on campus, Coach Bowden referred to me as a man, and he referred to my teammates as men. You see, he expected us to be men the first day we walked on campus. He demanded it, and we all had to grow up fast. Coach Bowden was more than our football coach. He gave us the tools we needed to become good men and great football players. I knew we'd achieve all our goals following Bobby Bowden's way.
Give 100%, that's all you do. We go out of this field, you go out there like a national champion. And you have a smile on your face, and you be happy, and just be loose.
The Bowden way is the straight way. What you see is what you get. He's the most honest man I have ever met in any business. I don't think there's a half ounce of larceny in his blood system. Bobby Bowden is Bobby Bowden, and that's the best thing I can say about a man. What you see is what you get, and when he shakes your hand or he tells you something, he means what he says.
It was about character and integrity. And what type of student athlete are you going to be after the game of football is over with? And I think that was his attitude when he recruited players and he went into your house and talked to your mom and to your dad. He said that, you know what, we're going to develop these student athletes into students and good people before we do anything on the football field. And that was his attitude. There was going to be a discipline. There was going to be a way that you carried yourself as a Florida State Seminole under Coach Bowden, and I tell you what, he developed some incredible people coming through the program. Yes, great athletes, but good people as well.
You know, you hear about leading by example, and Bobby Bowden led by example in the Bowden way. I mean, just everything he did from being off the field to on the field was always in the most moralistic and perfect way that a man could probably try to carry himself, especially as a football coach and especially trying to mold young men. And I think that he just led by example in the Bowden way, and we all try to live by that way as well.
I think it's a set of standards, and I think we understood that. I mean, definitely for me, coming from Lakeland, Florida, having an opportunity to come up and play for Coach Bowden for 4 years, I understood a long time it was just kind of value-based guy. This is the way that it was going to be.
I think the Bowden way for Coach is to go in during the week and put in as much effort as you possibly can. To make sure that when you show up on Saturday, things are on point and ready to roll. I think with Coach, he's always had his handprint on everything that's going on with this program.
From the starters to the special teamers, Coach Bowden encouraged us to step up to every challenge. At the beginning of every season, Coach Bowden gave us a slogan that he wanted us to define our year by. 1991, our slogan was, "You can count on me." And we did. We knew that we could count on every player on that team. In 1992, our slogan was, "No excuses." In 1993, the slogan was, "One thing left." Coach Bowden focused everyone on one goal. We all had one mind, one goal. We grew together, we won together, and at the end of the season, we were national champions.
He could take kids, myself included, and because of the way he conducted himself, the way he talked to you, the way practices were organized, the way you saw him live his life, you wanted to excel. Because of who he was, you wanted to be all you could be. Do everything to win. Don't settle for second. Don't ever settle for losing. Play within the rules, do it right, but in everything you do it to win. Do it to excel. And if you're not willing to do that, then don't even start it. And if you will do that, life will be very enjoyable. Success will come your way.
We're here to get that ring, aren't we? Everything we've worked for is right down to now, you know? I mean, you don't want to hold nothing back. You know, you ain't going to hold nothing back, man.
If they don't score, we win. And we do want to win, right?
Well, what you gonna do, head coach? Well, all I can do is cheerlead. All I can do is talk enthusiasm to the kid. That's all I can do, you know what? And so I do that some.
Are we gonna let them beat us? No. Let's get out there and get on.
He's the best, the absolute best, at getting everything out of average, good, and great athletes so that they all play better than their God-given ability.
I feel an obligation. I feel that one of these days these young men are going to stand before their maker. And I'd hate for them to say, I didn't make it because of Bobby Bowden. I'd want them to say, I got a chance to make it because of something he told me. You know what? Now, I feel driven for that. And again, I do it for those kids.
Coach Bowden's like I'm gonna say it like the father figure. He's like the person that treats you fair. Not just on the football field. He treats you like everyday people supposed to be treated, with respect. Now don't get me wrong. He wants you to do your job, you better get it done. But he treats you with the utmost respect.
Well, you keep your eye on him. I mean, it's important here we don't play a small game. Dan, do you think you're okay, huh, buddy? I think so. It's very important now if you're not, to be honest with me. I will.
Search for God's purpose in your life, then do it. That was the constant theme Coach Bowden preached. And he walked the walk. He was a father to Mitty. Not a dad that you played catch with, but a father that you looked to for guidance. He loved unconditionally. The color of your blood was always much more important than the color of your skin, and blood is thick. Your family.
The relationship that he and I had was incredible. He didn't know who the heck I was. I was a little bit different coming in. I didn't fit the mold of a perfect football player, but he loved me and accepted me for who I was, and that's how he did all of his sons, and that's what we are to him, or his sons, and he's our father.
One of the greatest things about coaching is the bond that you have between coach and player. It used to be daddy and son, but now it's mostly, or more, high percentage, coach and player.
He'll win you over in a heartbeat. He'll have a twinkle in his eye, and he can talk to you in a three-piece suit. He can talk to you sitting on a back porch and whittle something, but you'll enjoy every minute you're with him.
Little known fact, Bobby Bowden is colorblind.
I was raised in a segregated South. I was raised in Birmingham, Alabama. When I came up through life, all the way up to, up to 1966. And in 1966, I'm now 36 years of age. At 36, I coached my first minority. You know it? Now, the question is, well, how did you make the transition? Well, it was no problem to me. I mean, I've always believed we're all equal. I've always believed all our blood's red. You know it? And the color of a guy's skin never bothered me. But I think the big thing is my Christian faith makes me believe we're all equal. The skin color makes no difference.
He's adjusted to times when you go all the way back now. He's been coaching 50-some years. You know, you can imagine that. And then he, at one point he was considered a father figure. Now sometimes they consider him a grandfather figure and so on and so forth. And I say that in jest, but he hasn't skipped a beat. He hasn't lost anything. He's sharp. And when he talks to those players, their eyes are in his eyes.
Hey man, that was one of the best Florida State Miami games I've been around being 30 years.
He's that admiral that knows all of the up-end echelon people, but he never loses that common touch where he can walk into a room full of people that are so far out of his age bracket, so far out of his lifestyle, his socioeconomic bracket, and make them feel just as comfortable as everybody feel in church. And that's Coach Bowden.
Elvis had the Memphis Mafia. Coach Bowden has the Birmingham Mafia. Guys he grew up with and stayed close to. But in Tallahassee, only one man has truly come to know Coach, and that man is Billy Smith. Smith has accompanied Coach Bowden on every road game, save a couple, and has been at his side, on the sideline, home and away, for every game in the last 34 years. Confidant, sounding board, and loyal. Bobby and Billy, oh, the stories they can tell.
We were playing Auburn up there, and that's back home for Coach Bowden. And of course, he wants to win the ball game. And we're playing a pretty tight ball game, and there was a guy named Bo that played for Auburn. He broke loose right near the end of the ball game and scored a touchdown, and they won the ball game. Keep in mind, Coach Bowden's family, friends, all in attendance. And when we get back in the car, we was driving back to Tallahassee. He said, "Who's riding with you?" I said, "Nobody." I assumed he wanted somebody to ride us. "Whoever you want." He said, "I don't want anybody in the car. I don't want no radio on. I don't want no talking. I don't want no whistling. I don't want anything." I said, "Coach, we got about 3.5 hours of driving. Anytime during that 3.5 hours, if you decide you want to talk, fine. If you don't, we're going to have 3.5 hours of silence." So we pulled out the gate, and he started talking. And he never stopped till we pulled up to Campbell Stadium 3.5 hours later. I think that was one of his ways of trying to get away from that loss and put it aside. And he didn't need somebody to talk with him. He needed somebody to listen to him.
Coach Bowden has suffered through the deaths of players, the deaths of family members, and has always handled with grace and compassion.
We lost some close games that we thought we could have won and probably should have won, and a couple of national championships slipped through your fingertips. And through all those, he stayed balanced. He really did. And that's one thing I think is to his credit. Come good or bad, his ship is going to stay afloat. And it's going to stay facing the wind. It really will. It won't run from it. It won't turn sideways.
A couple of years ago, 2 family members of his was killed in an automobile accident. The Highway Patrol called me that night and wanted me to be the one to break the news to the family, which I appreciated very much. I didn't appreciate the task, but I appreciate them letting me do it rather than a stranger. That was probably one of the toughest nights I've ever had in my life, to go to his house and tell him that his ex-son-in-law and his grandson had been killed in a car wreck. Not good news, and it was a long night for all of us.
Probably the lowest I've ever seen him. And he had written a letter the night that we played Miami, and down there on a Friday night he wrote it, and he gave me a copy of it, and I think I'm the only one that has it other than he wrote it to his children. And it was written like at 10 o'clock at night. And some of the things he wrote in there just, it humbled me, and it really spoke to me about who this man really was, apart from wins and losses, apart from his one-liners, apart from his great country boy attitude and atmosphere around him, and how great a coach he was. It proved that he was a greater man.
Let's bring one back, man. This is a great way to end the season. Everybody block. Let's bring one back. What do you say? Lock on, lock on.
I remember when Woody Hayes was the head coach at Ohio State. I was coaching at West Virginia University. We're only about 180 miles away from Columbus, you know. And he was one of my heroes as a coach when I was a youngster. And they always said that Woody, when he'd go out and recruit, he'd sit in the house maybe an hour or 2 hours and never mention football. It was always about the boys' education, always about the family, always about this or that. You know what? And I've done very much the same thing.
There's never been a recruiter quite like Coach Bowden. You see, I grew up a fan of Florida State, and I had heard all about him before I was recruited. But even so, you can feel when somebody's being real with you. And when you sit down with Coach, you know you're getting the real deal. He came to my house, sat down with my mama, talked over dinner, and I knew right away that I could believe in Coach Bowden. And once I put my trust in him, he never let me down. I consider him a prophet myself. You know, he told my mom and myself that I'd get a degree and I'd be a part of his first national championship team at Florida State. It all came true. Every player has their own story about Coach Bowden and what it took for him to seal the deal. But Coach Bowden, being Coach Bowden, it was what really made it happen.
Florida State was playing Memphis State at home, and my meeting with Coach Bowden was at 9:15 on Saturday morning, game day. So they don't do much of that anymore. And Mama and Daddy and I went into his office, and it was about 1/3 the size of the one he has now. 3 walls were concrete block. He couldn't hang any pictures on them because you couldn't put a nail in them. And we talked. We didn't talk about football. We talked about my grades. We talked about what I wanted to major in. We talked about the training table and where I'd live if I came to Florida State. And candidly, Coach probably spent about 2/3 of the time talking to my mama. And when we walked out of there, you know, there were 3 other recruits waiting for their 15 minutes. But when we walked out of there at 9:30, I never will forget, my dad looked at my mom and my mom looked at my dad, and my mom said, "He's coming here."
I don't go there and talk about football and how good he's going to be in football, you know, but usually how I'll try to help him, be like a father to him. I say, you know, he gets off to college, y'all ain't going to be there. Mom and Daddy, y'all not going to be there. You know, I'll be there, and I'll do my best to take y'all's place. And that's kind of the approach I have taken.
He went into the kitchen with my mother, and they started trading recipes, and he started talking about how Miss Ann does this, and she said that he needs to add this, and it totally wasn't about football, and it wasn't about where I was going to college. It was about this looked like it could have been my mother's old friend, and they was just hanging out in the kitchen sharing recipes, and I was this byproduct that happened to bring these old friends together.
This Coach Bowden and my granddad developed such a great relationship, you know, playing pool and, you know, him, Odell, Jeff Bowden, and they were just having such a good time that, you know, you're thinking, man, he loves his family, he loves my family, and you could tell that it wasn't just oh, I want to try to get you here. You know, everything was from the heart.
You know what? For me, it was funny because when he came into the house, Terry was leaving out. At that time, Terry was coaching at Auburn, and they caught each other coming. Terry was leaving out of the house as Bobby was coming in the house, and you know, they started to have this little discussion about how Bobby was gonna tell Ann about Terry being out on the road so late, and you know, it was just a whole lot of back and forth. It was actually an interesting time to get father and son in the house at the same time, and me and my mom, we chuckled it up and had a good time with it.
Coach Bowden came in, you know, he kind of comes in with his sports coat on, And I was in awe. You know, I mean, here I am being recruited and, you know, blue chipper and all of that type of stuff, but I was in awe when Coach Bowden actually came to the neighborhood. And I think the closing deal is that, you know, do you want to go to Tallahassee and be a part of a great tradition? And I think that pretty much sold me.
My father had coached and played at Michigan State University, where I'm from, and pretty much everybody was pretty much thought that it was a closed deal that I was going to be a Spartan. And Coach Bowden came up to visit. He was, pretty much the determining factor when he came to our house. And then as he left, not only were we sure that that was the school for us and that that was the man that we wanted to be my coach for the 4 years of my life, but he tops it up. It was snowing at that time in Michigan, and as he was leaving, he leant down, packed up a snowball and threw it at my mother, hit her right in the stomach. She leaned to me and she said, "Kirk, you made the right decision." So we knew he was our guy.
Coach Bowden's personality was his ace in the hole. What you saw is what you got. It earned him a reputation of being a great closer, but that's only part of the story. You see, recruiting was something that Coach Bowden enjoyed, meeting the players who would work hard for his team and the families who would support his boys. Bobby Bowden wasn't just recruiting when he visited your home. He was building his Seminole football family.
Of course, a lot of it's overplayed. Bowden is a good closer. I go visit him because every other head coach in the country is too, you know, so I have to. And but I enjoy doing it. You know, a lot of coaches get out of coaching because they don't like recruiting. I've really enjoyed it. I love the conversation. I don't like the telephone calling and all that. I'd rather go see them face to face, you know. But anyway, I enjoy that.
When he came into your household or when he talked to you, you knew it was genuine. You knew he was real. You knew he was confident in what he was talking about, and you could see that. And I think that was the thing that really made him a good closer. Is at the end of the day, you knew what he was saying was honest and it was real, and he was going to give you his honest opinion on what he's going to help you try to accomplish in college. And that's rare in college football because with so many recruiters, they're promising you everything, and they're telling you you're going to be the greatest, you're going to be a great starter. But at the end of the day, a lot of them aren't as honest and as real as Coach Bowden was.
He comes over like being a father figure. You know, a person that cares, makes you feel like, hey, I want you to come play for me, not come play for me, and you'll learn a lot about life, not just football, about life. And that's the thing that really, really won my mother over when they was recruiting me, and she met Coach Bowden. She felt so comfortable when he came in the house. When he left, she wanted me to leave with him.
And fans may not realize just how accessible he was. This was a guy who talked to the media just about 7 days a week. He talked after losses, he talked after wins, he talked after arrest. I mean, good, bad, ugly. He was available, and he also was a firm believer that his players needed to be accountable, and part of that accountability was you have to be available to the media. So when a guy got in trouble or a guy threw an interception or dropped a pass, he didn't shield him from the media as a lot of other coaches do. He had him go out there and stand there and face the fire, if you will, because he believes that's part of growing up and maturing as a young man.
In a profession known for gruff, tough, ornery coaches, Bobby Bowden vowed to lead the friendliest staff in the state, and the media embraced him. The Seminoles' accessibility may well have been a product of Bowden's spiritual faith and his personal confidence. He had nothing to hide. A child of the 30s, he offered a Will Rogers affection for nearly every old cuss. For Bobby Bowden rarely met a man he didn't like.
Number one, he's very comfortable in his own skin. I mean, he can speak one-on-one, he can speak to a camera, he can speak to a crowd of 10,000. Coach Bowden is very secure in who he is and what he stands for, and that overused phrase, secure in his skin. Secondly, I think he learned early that if you can work with the media, they'll support you. They'll be on your side. They'll get your story out, and that'll help sell tickets and put people in the stands and make yourself known. And I think lastly, his core belief, he's just going to be honest. You know, he never went into an interview or never went into a press conference with some kind of agenda. You know, I am going to do this or I'm not going to do that. He would just be himself.
Whether I win or whether I lose, I like if you lose, you like to get it out of your system. You know, you like to try to give an explanation of why you did what you did or why it happened like it did. You know, so I don't mind doing that. It's never bothered me. Critical questions have never bothered me. You know what? Because it gives me a chance to explain my side of it.
He instilled it in us. When you're talking to the media, tell the truth. The truth will never get you in trouble. Don't lie. Don't make things up. If you're just honest, then nobody can pin anything on you because it is what it is. And I think his ability to be comfortable in who he was and the fact that he knew he needed to maybe help the media a little bit because they would help him, and then just he's transparent. I think all those things are what make him someone that the media likes talking to. The fact that he had a pretty good quip every now and then and was a little bit funny, I think helped as well.
Can you hold up strong in the fourth quarter?
We're in the briar patch. This is our kind of weather.
Bowden was a showman. He promoted the program. He hosted his own television show. He was Johnny Carson on camera and George Patton on the practice field. And he found a kindred spirit in Howard Schnellenberger, then elevating the Miami Hurricanes to national prominence. And together, they literally and figuratively laced up the gloves and climbed into the ring. And it was great theater.
I'll tell you what I want for Christmas. I want you, if you're a Seminole fan, to buy a ticket to the Tangerine Bowl and come down and watch us play.
I remember when he put a microphone around his neck and hosted his own coach's show. There was no Gene Deckerhoff.
When Bobby Bowden would do his television show, he'd always have that knack of mentioning a player in his hometown, talk about his mom and his parents and maybe his high school coach. And I asked him once, I said, have you always done that? And he said, well, he says, Bear Bryant used to do that on his television show. And he said, I always thought that was one of the best shows that I had ever watched when I was growing up as a young coach. So he did try to emulate Bear Bryant from that standpoint.
You can argue whether he's the greatest football coach of all time, but I don't think there's any question he was the greatest ambassador in college football history, not only dealing with the media, dealing with the fans. He opened up his program in a time when a lot of coaches are shutting it down. You got a lot of paranoid coaches these days, a lot of coaches who are trying to shut off the fans and shut off the media from their program. Bobby Bowden always opened his up, and that's one of the things I always loved about him.
Bobby just has an uncanny ability. It doesn't matter whether you're a writer, a broadcaster, a voice of the Seminoles, or a TV host of a Bobby Bowden TV show. Everybody that Bobby meets, he thinks is a friend, unless they prove otherwise. And until they prove otherwise, Bobby is as friendly with everybody that he ever met than anybody that I know. Bobby has never met somebody, initial meeting, that he did not like. Now, he may not like you 10 years down the road if you did something he didn't want you to, but that's the way Bobby is, with the media or with just folks that are part of the media.
I've had very fair treatment. Very treatment. Bianca, even from you, I've had very fair. No, I'll tell you about, I've had some of the toughest ones he's written, but I guarantee he wrote some of the best ones I've ever had. So I feel like I've been treated very fair.
I loved it, of course. I mean, to be mentioned by who I think is the greatest coach of all time, I think it was an honor to me. And he even said it in his press conference. Hey, this guy's been tougher on me probably than anybody, and that was the great thing about Bobby Bowden. He understood that you were going to write good things about him. He understood that you were going to write bad things about him, and he always handled it professionally. You could write a biting column about Bobby Bowden, and the next time he saw you, it was, "Hey, buddy, how you doing, buddy?" And that's what I loved about him.
Coach, your 30th Florida State game. Talk about the level of confidence that you feel as you arrived today.
Well, I think I can't hardly remember us being so doggone equal.
On game day, even with a game face, Bobby Bowden had clarity of mind. If he saw you, he saw a friendly face, he saw a camera, he came to you. Even on the biggest stage, the media was not an opponent, as it is to many coaches. To Bobby Bowden, the media was an ally.
There has never been a more accessible football coach that I know of in the college or pro game, or high school game for that matter, than Bobby Bowden. Approachable by the media, always has a good answer, a quip, never tries to dodge or avoid anything. Bobby Bowden is a media member's dream, and we're going to miss that.
All right, the men, they got a 1-point lead. They got a 1-point lead. They kick off to us. Now, no penalties on that kickoff now. No penalties.
I was going to retire next year. Okay, I ended up this year. I will not say retired, though, for personal reasons, you know. So this year I had to get out. You know what? Well, I was going to stay one more year. How tough has it been? Once the deal was made up, you know, no problem. No problem.
Well, I don't think Bobby was quite ready to leave, but when you look at it from a university standpoint, perhaps you have to say, well, maybe it was time.
Well, it's business. You look at it in dollars and cents, and you come up with different figures. It's now, do you fill the stadium? I think probably too much blame has been on football when they're not taking into effect our economy. Why aren't people driving up from Tampa and driving up from Miami in droves like they used to? I would think the economy has something to do with that. You know, not all a football team that hadn't won enough games.
To understand what happened, you have to put this in a historical context. When Bobby Bowden arrived, the year is 1976. The bicentennial is being celebrated. Gerald Ford is in the White House. There are no 24/7 cable sports networks. Doak Campbell Stadium is an erector set, steel with open end zones. Bobby Bowden's successor, Jimbo Fisher, is 8 years young. Now you flash forward 3.5 decades later, and the unprecedented Bobby Bowden dynasty, the roar of success, is fading, and the frustrations are mounting.
After the success of 2000, and then we began to go down, we would have had to scrutinize our recruiting evaluation. I don't think we did as good a job of evaluating, because, you know, during those 10 years, we won the recruiting war quite a few years. Florida State was number 1 in the nation. Florida State was number 5th in the nation. Florida State was number 7 in the nation. You know what? But maybe that just shows you, hey, don't go by them names. Don't go by those write-ups. Don't go by them clippings. What can they do when they go to college? See, I think we could have done a better job of evaluating of what they're going to do when they get to college, you know, instead of all the clippings.
Joe Paterno obviously had some down times too and was able to weather those. But Joe Paterno doesn't have Urban Meyer right down the street recruiting against him. He doesn't have Randy Shannon down in South Florida, you know, a hot young coach recruiting down there.
There was a chase within his grasp only a few seasons earlier to complete his career with more victories than any other coach in the history of the game. And it was a two-man race between two now octogenarians in Bobby Bowden and Penn State's Joe Paterno. And when the ebb of Seminole success made it clear that Joe Pa would claim that record, Bowden then found other dreams just beyond his grasp.
That was the thing that hurt me the most about making this the last game. Number one, I always had a hidden agenda of wanting to win 400 games. Because if I can win 400 games, I don't care whether I'm second or third or what, you up there with 8 many, right? I mean, I think the closest guys behind Joe and I are 200 and something, you know? I mean, so I want to get 400. Well, I've lost that. I'm only 2 behind Joe in bowl games. I lost that. I had a chance. I never played in a Rose Bowl. Lost that. You know, there are things you'd like to accomplish that maybe you couldn't do it, you know. I mean, odds of catching Joe wasn't good. You still wanted the opportunity to do those things, and they were taken away.
In the most remarkable irony, it was as if Bobby Bowden's own history of success was now playing against him.
You know, some of the remarks that were made about, I was trying to think one of the remarks that tickled me. Well, it's just not what we're used to. We're not winning. It's not like we're used to. My question is, what year are you talking about? You talk when I first came here, when you didn't win none? We ain't had a losing year in 32 years, and y'all didn't win none. Is that what you compared it to? No, you compared it when we won the national championship. We won 11 games every year. Yeah, we did that, So, but I know how people are. There are things more important than football, I've always told foot coaches, hey, don't make football your God. It'll kill you, And I try not to make it my God. Mother used to tell me how fast the years go by. She was probably 50-something at that age, and talked about, time it never comes back. Once it goes, it's gone. And so now you get my age, 80. Yeah, I don't know where it went. The years just run together. But as far as just life is concerned, there hadn't been a bad one out there.
Coach Bowden has consistently voiced his firm conviction that it would be better for the next guy if he left Tallahassee when his time at Florida State came to an end. Coach does not want to be a distraction or a hindrance in any way to the next coach to follow him, but he will be watching, and he will be pulling for the Seminoles, always.
In fact, I don't even want to be around where they can get a parade. Really, I've always said that when I get through coaching at Florida State, I'll leave because I want the next guy to have full freedom of doing what he wants and not having the Bobby Bowden looking over his shoulder or somebody saying, well, that ain't what Bobby would have done. And that's kind of what follows. I want to leave town, leave him a full reign on that.
Bobby has told me he wants to travel. He wants to continue to work with the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. He will go on a speaking tour of some kind, and Bowden told me just before Christmas that they already have a speaking engagement in Rio de Janeiro. They're going to go to Jerusalem, and he's often told me that because I've asked, I said, Bobby, as devout a Christian as you are, as much as you study the Bible and have patterned your life after the life of Jesus, you've never been to Jerusalem, you've never been to Bethlehem. And he says, Gene, I've always wanted to go. And just when I get ready to go, all of a sudden something flares up in the Mideast, and I say, no, I'm just not going to go there. But Bobby is going to Jerusalem. He's going to walk where Jesus walked, and that's going to be a highlight, I think, of his life.
It's going to be hard for him not to think about football, because every time I go in his office, he's got the doggone video camera player playing or some plays and talking about some plays and this play on offense or this play on defense or this defensive guy or this kicking game issue or whatever like that. I think it's going to be hard for him to put his hand to stop moving on that remote control. He's going to have the ghost remote control trying to look at videos, and trying to stop. But I think he'll relax and he'll just reflect on some of the things he's done and probably start planning some future things.
After spending so much time away from family and having to sacrifice, and I think he and Miss Ann will cuddle up with the kids and the grandkids and travel a little bit and try and see the world or what of it that he hasn't done at this point. I'm sure he's been able to take family vacations, but just really try and spend some quality time with his family, I suspect.
People don't realize, as head coach of FSU, just how much time and how much effort it takes. So he's going to take a well-deserved break just to be able to relax and spend time with his wife, his kids and grandkids, and just be able to enjoy some of the fruits of his labor. But I tell you what, he deserves all the break and all the time he's going to get now.
Bobby won't sit still, guaranteed. Travel, speeches, and visits are next, with several family members probably in tow.
I think those of us that have known Bobby for a long, long time never wanted Bobby to leave. I remember a day on a practice field, it's hotter than Hades, and we're out there, and it's two-a-day practices, it's in August, and I look up on that tower, and there's Bobby Bowden, and then I know he's got that golf cart. He drives into the Moore Athletic Center on that golf cart, parks it underneath the stadium, and I mentioned to Randy Orovitz, longtime director of sports medicine at Florida State, I said, you let Bobby stand in that tower during practice on these hot days and let him drive to his office in that golf cart, he may coach forever. And almost unanimously both said, we hope so. And I think we're still hoping that Bobby would coach forever.
I think, if I'm honest in what I'm fixing to say, I think any of us in life, and I don't care what we do, if we've got 5 friends that will stay with us through thick or thin, we're blessed. Coach Bowden, one of those 5 with me. Now, when he leaves here, what will it do? There'll be a void in my life, but on the opposite side of that street, there's a big, big plus of having the opportunity of being around him for as many years as I have and being able to share the joy and the heartbreak and with him.
Personally, it'll be a great loss. It really will be. There is not too many men like him. I've been around a lot of good coaches and great coaches that have come through this program and others that have left. But as far as a man, I think there'll be a great emptiness. Now, somebody else will go in and sit in that office. Somebody else will roam the sidelines. Somebody else will have the title. But those are some big shoes to fill.
Remember Coach Bowden? Next to my own father, the single most important male figure in my life. A godly man, led by example and out front. He did things the right way, won games and championships while leading young boys to grow and become men of character.
Well, you'd like to say that, you'd like to say, boy, he always had a good plan. He always had a good plan. And he was always there. He was always there. He led from the point, you know, not sitting up there in his chair somewhere, you know. As far as football is concerned, I would like for people to say, boy, he was one of the best. You don't have to tell me I'm number one. You don't have to tell me I'm number 5. I'd like for him to say he was one of the best, and he did it the right way. The thing that would hurt me most of all, look at all those games he won, but he cheated. That would kill me. I wouldn't want that. You know what? But I'd like to say he did it the correct way, and he was pretty doggone good. You know. Now my real down to my faith, I would want people to say he served God's purpose in his life, because I've always felt like every man on this earth has a purpose that God has given them, and their job is to find that purpose and try to live it out. So I would like for them to say, hey, he served God's purpose for his life. That would be the most meaningful, you know.